Well, Sabah al-Khair from Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Now, let me give you a little bit of background. The last time I was here in Lebanon was in 2018. My wife and I spent about a week traveling around this incredible country. But a lot has happened since. I mean, in 2019 alone, there was the so-called revolution on the back end of a currency crisis, which has never really ended. And in 2020, the port blast. In 2024, the Israeli occupation and bombing campaign. And even though there's a ceasefire in effect, well, the Israelis have not exactly honored it. So I'm back in Beirut to see what life is like now for Beirutis and the Lebanese people more generally. Well, first impressions, Beirut feels the same as it did last time. I mean, very calm, very chill, people taking strolls down by the Corniche, but maybe it's all window dressing. Let's see. So, you know, looking back at how the state of Lebanon was created, we have to go back to the period of the Ottoman Empire. Because during that period, Mount Lebanon was created as a safe haven or autonomous community for the Maronite Christians. Now, the thing is, at the end of World War I, you had a lot of Arab nationalist aspirations, perhaps for what would be known as a Greater Syria. But this was all frustrated by, well, the plans of the British and the French. With the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the area is carved up between these two imperialist powers, with Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq going to the British, and actually Lebanon and Syria going to the French. Greater Lebanon is created by taking Mount Lebanon and a lot of Syrian territory effectively. And this would also alter the demographic balance. I mean, Maronite Christians at the time still represented the majority, but you had big numbers of Sunni Muslims, Shia Muslims, and also Druze. So after independence in 1943, the demographic balance of Lebanon began to shift. And one of the reasons for this was the 1948 Nakba, the expulsion of more than 700,000 Palestinians from what became the State of Israel. And a lot of these Palestinians came to Lebanon, hundreds of thousands. Also by the 1970s, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO, was headquartered here in Beirut. And by the mid-1970s, Lebanon now had a Muslim majority. But the thing is, the political and the economic power was still really resting with the Maronite Christians. And this would explode into what we know as the Lebanese Civil War, which lasted between 1975 and 1990. But it wasn't just a civil war, it was a regional war, it was an international war, and more so than being a war between the Muslims and the Christians, it was really a class struggle. Because on the Muslim or the so-called left-wing side, there were also a lot of Greek Orthodox Christians, Palestinian Christians, Armenians, who supported, well, the revolutionaries, you can say, those who wanted to make Lebanon a more equal place and fighting against the Christian forces, many of which were actually fascists, you know, grouped around the Phalangist Party. Well, I guess you can say the center of it all is really Hamra Street. And Hamra Street also would have been the center of West Beirut back in the day when the Civil War was raging. And Beirut itself would become split between West Beirut, controlled by the left-wing forces, and East Beirut, controlled by the Christians. And we'll see the green line that separated the city in a little bit. But here in West Beirut was the home of the PLO, and in 1978 and then again in 1982, the Israelis invaded. In 1982, they actually ended up pushing the PLO out of Lebanon completely. Well, here on Hamra Street, you actually have a poster dedicated to George Abdallah, political prisoner from Lebanon who has been in confinement in France since 1984. So this hotel right behind me, I mean, nowadays you would have no idea the significance that it played during the Civil War because, well, this is where a lot of journalists would stay at that time. And apparently one of the things that was asked when you were checking in was, do you want artillery side or car bomb side? And in 1990, a peace was concluded that would end the Lebanese Civil War, which was actually, you could say, many wars concentrated within a 15-year period. And now you have a situation in which Lebanon has a very weak central government, very weak armed forces, you can say, and power is supposed to be divided up between the Christian president, the Sunni prime minister, and the speaker of the parliament, who always has to be a Shia Muslim. And looking at the demographics of Lebanon today, around 40% of the population are Christian, around 25% Shia Muslim, 25% Sunni Muslim, and around 5% Druze. Well, the largest university in Lebanon remains the American University of Beirut, which dates back to 1866. And interestingly, this is where George Habash was going to school when the Nakba happened in 1948. Habash, who went on to lead the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. Oh, so look who I found here in Beirut. What's going on, man?
Funny bumping into you.
It's randomly, huh?
Exactly.
This wasn't pre-planned at all. Anyway, bro, last time we saw each other was like, what, more than 2 years ago? And now we're here in the boogie down Beirut. But yeah, man, what do you think? It's your first time in this part of the world.
It is. It is. I guess my first impressions are the legacy of war and what a horrible thing war is. I think for me as an anti-imperialist, you know, of course I would always glorify all the forces of resistance and believe in their right to self-defense, but it's always like we see these buildings in front of us just hollowed out and everyday people who have really suffered in the middle of that.
Yeah, man. And right now we're basically close to the Green Line. So this would have been the division that Beirut had during the so-called Civil War, and really was fortified, I guess you could say, during the Battle of the Hotels. I mean, what a name, right? The Battle of the Hotels between 1975 and 1977, I believe. So yeah, we got the shell of the Holiday Inn right here.
That's like 50 years ago.
Yeah, 50 years, and this has been here. Nah.
And
that hotel, the Holiday Inn, was operational for a year, right? And then the war broke out. So there's stories of people having their wedding receptions in there, and you can imagine, man, like Beirut was a very different place, although, of course, the place also with profound inequality, which is what led to this really revolution, right, against the, you know, Maronite-dominated government. It's just wild because right next to that shell of the Holiday Inn, you have all of this. Like, bro, this is incredible. Opulence. It looks like Dubai or something.
Fifth Ave.
Yeah, exactly. Totally different vibe.
To remember the horrors of war.
Yeah.
Because you had quote-unquote belligerents. Like, if you look at each side, they broke down to, like, left-wing forces versus right-wing alliance.
Yeah.
It's like infinite different factions coming together for this war with the people trapped in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see right over there, the Phoenicia Hotel? The Phoenicia Hotel was also one of them that, you know, people wanted access to. Like, the groups would try to take up positions in there. But unlike the Holiday Inn, the Phoenicia has been completely revamped and, you know, is open to guests again. So it's pretty bizarre because we're about as central as you can get in Beirut right now, very close to Martyr Square. It's pretty much abandoned on this particular street. I mean, all of the shops are closed up. I'm not sure if that's how it normally is on a Friday, but there's also the piercing sound of Israeli drones up above us somewhere, presumably. I mean, can't see them, but can you hear them?
And then Lebanese soldiers being super nice to us, cracking jokes in limited English. I'm confused. There's a Haagen-Dazs right there. Is anyone going to the Haagen-Dazs? All you hear is Israeli drones.
What's going on? You want to be the lonely man to partake in shisha? Yeah, and more buildings hollowed out from the Lebanese Civil War period, still sitting here right next to Martyr Square. And one thing I love about here, you have the Maronite Cathedral right next to the Mohammed al-Amin Mosque, which only opened in 2008, so it's very, very, very new. And yeah, it feels good to be back here at Martyr Square, which I believe was more or less the demarcation line between West Beirut and East Beirut back in the day during the war. So, you know, the significance of Martyr Square is that there's one here in Beirut and also one in the center of Damascus. And that's not a coincidence. I mean, they both commemorate the events of 1916, where Arab nationalists would have been executed by the Ottoman regime. So last time I was here in 2018, 100,000 Lebanese pounds would give you around 66 US dollars. But nowadays, 100,000 Lebanese pounds doesn't even give you $1 US. So the currency crisis that started in 2019 is still ongoing. And that crisis was followed very quickly by the government announcing new taxes on things like WhatsApp messaging, for example. So on October 17th of 2019, what's known nowadays as a revolution ended up taking place. And that revolution was really just a series of mass protests that led to the resignation of key members of the government, and for a period of 2 years, Lebanon actually didn't even have a president. Yo, so, Danny, it's fucking scorching, bro. It's incredibly hot, man. We've done a lot of walking today, but now we are on Armenia Boulevard, and Armenians comprise something like 4% of the total population of Lebanon. Did you know that?
I definitely did not.
Now you know. So let's check out what the Armenian community. Let's check out what the Armenian community has to offer, man. Well, in 1915, as the Armenian genocide was taking place, there were death marches in the Syrian desert around Deir ez-Zor, and eventually a lot of Armenians were able to make it as far as Beirut. With the coming of the mandate for Syria and Lebanon, these people were allowed to actually stay. So how's life in Beirut now?
It's nice, it's good. Other than Israel and Hezbollah, it's fire. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, man. We heard there were drones overhead earlier.
Yeah, we get the drones.
Yeah, we heard the drones. So, do you just get used to the drones, or?
Yeah, just get used to it. It's just normal at this
It's
point.
not just the drones, we got used to the bombings too.
Wow.
Like,
Do you
like
feel the
that.
bombings over here?
Oh, yeah.
You feel it shake?
Yes, I live in Shwaife. We had to evacuate our house.
Oh, you did?
This is my house.
And
Wow.
your house is where?
This one right here.
Oh my god.
When was this?
This was the 28th of September.
Wow.
On her birthday.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
That's the 66-day war?
Yes.
Oh my God. So now you're here.
Sad.
No, I still live in
You
this
still
house.
live there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, just about a block and a half, maybe 2 blocks over from Armenia Street, and you have the highway, and on the other side of that, the Beirut port, which is where that blast took place on the 4th of August of 2020. A blast that just further exasperated the problems that Lebanon was already facing. Yeah, a lot of spots right around here, I mean, just off of Armenia Street, that actually didn't survive the port blast of 2020. And people have been telling us that a lot of people have tremendous trauma from that time and have just been trying to move on, rebuild, and a lot of new businesses that have opened up subsequently. Damn, and here I was thinking that US aid was pretty much no more. Oh man, the heat is a lot today. But we made it to the neighborhood of Ashrafia in the former East Beirut, and this is a wealthy Christian neighborhood. And as a result of this, also because of the fact that it was so close to the front line, a lot of residents here could have moved away during the period of the Lebanese Civil War. Well, you know that you're in a wealthy Christian neighborhood when you see symbolism from the Civil War that shows the far right. So, for example, the Kata'i party, formerly known as the Phalangists, I mean, nowadays they call themselves National Conservatives, but, well, we know their track record. Man, Beirut is such a city of contradictions, and with this beautiful sunset and people out here on the jet skis, it's easy to forget that about 160 miles away there's an unfolding genocide in Gaza, the systematic starvation of the civilian population, and then actually luring them in with little scraps of food, flour, and then shooting people dead. The idea of creating concentration camps is now, you know, very blatantly being peddled by the Israelis, and this is what we're dealing with here. It's really bizarre. Alright, we made it to Abu Eli, otherwise known as the Red Knight, a communist bar here in the heart of, well, I think we're in Hamra or Ras Beirut. They'll let us know, but yeah, been wanting to come here for ages.
Can I eat this?
Yemeni, the Palestinian leader of the resistance.
Palestinian.
Yes. And the other one is Ghassan Kanafani.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've studied.
It was the anniversary of his assassination a few days ago.